All right, hey, we are going to be blocking in this burger. I took a photo of the burger you're going to work with so I can have it on my phone. And I write the date on my painting when I took the photo so I can easily find it in my camera roll, and that's going to be just off screen. We have your paint set or your whatever paints you need. We'll have a bucket of paints. We'll have plenty of paints for you. You will have access to some brushes. This is not a very big painting, so the brushes we use aren't very big at this point. Let's get those over here. You are going to take this tracing. This is your warm-up, and you're going to go through the same kind of process when you do your larger final one. But this one is just a warm-up, and it just gets you used to everything. And you're going to take this and trace it onto the paper that I give you. It's Bristol board. It'll work well for acrylic paint. We are going to tape it all the way around. Make sure you tape it down completely. There I wrote down the date on which I took the photo, and make sure to put your name on the tape as well, because we'll be storing these more than likely in a drying rack. We want to know whose is whose because they all should look very similar to each other. All right, this is going off to the side. I have a little bit of water, and we don't use much water. And I have a palette. We're going to make a palette in class with just some paper that gets wrapped around a piece of cardboard. All right, so I'm gonna put some blue in the background, and I'm gonna start with the yellow ochre for the bun, and we're just gonna block it in. Very simple colors, very simple, plain, flat colors. And here's how easy it'll go. I'll do the top part, and I'll do the rest in time lapse real fast. All right, so in acrylic, you tend to work back to front. You paint the stuff that's behind first. So I'm going to paint the little slice of background that we have here. When you start painting with acrylic, you can put your your brush into some water, but you really want to wipe it out. Don't use a bunch of water unless you really intend to thin the paint down. You don't want to use much water at all. So I'm just going to pull off a little bit, and it's as simple as paint by numbers at this point. It doesn't matter, this first undercoat, doesn't matter if it's perfectly smooth, perfectly even. What you do want to do, however, is make sure to at least bump into your pencil line. Don't leave any gaps of the paper showing through. If anything, go over the pencil line, because the next color will bump into it and possibly go over it as well. Now, I'm not going to do any little color variations. I can if I want to. I may do it on another coat. But for this one, I'm going to keep it just a flat blue. And you might be able to see that it's not super thick, and you can still see a few of my brush strokes, but we're going to be going over this stuff again. We're just blocking things in at this point. Now, if I wash my brush out really fast to change colors, you need to wipe it out with a paper towel. And it doesn't really matter if there's a little bit of color left in here when we go to the next color. And since you're painting kind of thin, it doesn't take long to dry. And it won't matter. Here's my yellow ochre. You can see I'm not taking very much at all, especially for this painting. And I'm going to just barely touch the water and make sure to wipe it out. Okay, so I may throw in a little bit of a color variation. When I look at my photo, I can see that there are a few little color variations. It gets a little bit darker kind of toward the top, and I'll show you how to do a little bit of that as you go. Let's see. Again, don't worry about painting really thick at this point. You just want to get a layer of paint down and just block it in. We're going to do a lot of detailing later. That's the part that takes the most time. I'm going to grab our burnt sienna, This isn't going to be the final color that we use, but this is a dark brown. And look at that, I just barely took anything at all. Barely took anything at all, because I'm just going to barely touch the corner of the paintbrush, just the corner. And if I want to at this point, I can start to, kind of put in a little darker tone up there. Now I'm not going to clean my brush out. I'm just going to go back to my yellow ochre and just start filling in more. So again, bump into the blue, even if you go over it up here. It's totally fine. Going to come right down to where the shadow is between, like that's a tomato right there. Just go for it. This is the fastest part of the whole process, the blocking in. So once we get this done, again, look, I'm just kind of crisscrossing. That crisscross method is a good one to get used to, because that's the way you're going to blend a lot of colors together. Okay, now if I see a few other spots that are kind of darker from my image, see the image has a little bit darker on top of the bun. The little cracks and crevices, and on your phone, guys, is great to zoom in. Those little cracks and crevices and the little bit of texture that you see, we'll do that as we do the touch-ups and refinements. You can see the background is definitely not blue. Okay, that's totally fine, don't worry. I can change that later too if I want to. So I'm just going to put a few, again, a few little smears. And again, I didn't clean the brush out. I'm going to let that brown, that darker brown, mix in with the yellow ochre. And there's a little bit right here too. So again, this is not the final, but crisscross. Now here's a great technique, you guys. Take your paper towel, wipe off the brush, and if I want this to feather away a little bit, if you wipe out the brush, your brush becomes a blending tool. So watch this. If I just put some color right here and wipe off the brush, it can just become a blending tool to get your gradations. Okay, that is so not finished, but let's get our red color for the tomato. Again, this is not going to be the final. I'll get this started, and I'm actually this time, oh, there it is. I'm not going to wash the brush out, but I am going to wipe it out. Doesn't matter. All right. So this red is going to be different when I finalize it, but we're just blocking it in. And there is a highlight on the tomato right there. Okay, if I want, I can start to add some white to it, but I'm not going to. I'm going to do that later. Over here, there's a shadow on the tomato. I'm not going to worry about that right now either. Again, check out how I'm going right up to the pencil line, if not over the pencil line a little bit. And I'm not worried about color gradation yet. I'm not worried about shadows really and highlights. The next color, that's going to be a shadow. That's going to be a dark shadow between the bun and the that dark strip. Doesn't matter what color I use. I'm going to probably use a dark blue color just to get something dark in there. I might mix it with a little bit of dark brown. Doesn't really matter because we come up and do a lot of touch up. All right, this is enough. I'll do the rest of it in time lapse so you can kind of see what it looks like. at the end. Okay, now we're blocked in. That's all it took. It was about 15 minutes. Um, I just used one of the red tones. For the cheese, I used a little bit of yellow and a little bit of yellow ochre. For the green, I used kind of the yellowish green color, um, and a little bit of yellow mixed in there, the light green. I went back to the yellow ochre, and then as I went over, I added a little bit of the brown to my brush and just kind of let it keep adding a little bit of brown to the brush to get it darker over there. My floor was the phthalo green. The phthalo green, and again, I can change that if I want to later on. Then I grabbed some of the ultramarine blue that I had on the canvas already and just drew that stripe in for that bottom shadow you can see here. All right, that's all there is to it. Again, that only took about 15 minutes, and you just have to go for it, you guys. Don't sit around and wait, just go for it. There you go. See ya.